Hello and welcome to episode 33 of this Blender and Unity crash course. This episode we're going to take our guy into Unity and start setting him up. So I went ahead and created this run here just to use with our controller. I just had a quick read over my script and I think I'm going to use this. You don't have to. I'll actually show you both ways. I'll show you how to set it up with just the walk animation, and if we'll blend between a walk and a run just in case you have both. Okay, so let's select our guy, select our skeleton, make sure we got them both. Let's go File, Export, FBX. I did a quick test, but that's fine, ignore that. Selected objects, apply transform, okay, export. And where you have animations, it might take an extra couple seconds to export just because it is exporting this list here. So just wait for that. Okay, I'm going to save this. Go to Unity. Okay, again, don't mind this this test here. We're going to actually bring in our stuff. So let's start with our textures. Okay, so let's bring in everything for the chicken. We might have a few things to fix here, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to drag all this into our textures. Now, if you think you're getting a little confused here, you can just right-click, create folder, call this one chicken. Okay, and we can then drop all our stuff into that folder. And we got a little bit tidier. So you can do that with all of your folders if you like. Right. So I just want to point something out here. So if I got this normal map that worked out perfectly on our coin, and I select another one here, it'll put them side by side in this little inspector. So what I want to show you is look at the difference in the color of the purples. So what this is it's got some mixed up channels. So a normal map uses X, Y, Z, and RGB. We want to fix this to look like this one. Now in Unity, when you change something to a normal map, right, you have this little option right here. Create from grayscale. Okay, that's actually going to fix all of this by reverting the image back to its black and whites, and then creating the normal map from that, and it's going to create the tone proper. So we're just going to change this to 0.1 because this can get a little nuts. We're going to change this to smooth. Okay, so 0.1 I think is pretty good there. It gives you a good strength ratio, basically, but 0.25 is really high, so just tone that down a little bit. Click apply. And then when you do, you see that these have changed to the proper type of normal map. In the same way, you can do this with the create from grayscale. We can actually take our these here, and we could create a normal map from these, and it would just use the darks and lights and basically give us some extra detail. So we'll see how that looks. Let's go into our models. You can actually come up here and create a new folder. Call this characters if you want. Bring it into your models too. It's no problem. I'm going to go back. Crash course files, models, and chicken character. Let's bring that guy in. Okay, so it's going to recognize the textures from where we brought him in already. Good. Okay, let's go to our materials. Right click, create material. I'm going to call this one chicken underscore egg. Okay, let's go to our textures under our chicken here. Albedo, ambient occlusion, normal map. And we'll just drag that onto the egg. Okay, we can change our strength to our normal and see all that stuff like that. So you can notice on the occlusion, it's giving us like some black on the edge of the egg there. And really simple, we'll fix that in GIMP. Come down to the chicken, right click here, go show and explorer. Okay, right click this here, open with GIMP. You could just open GIMP and find that file. It's the same thing, no problem. Okay, so I just want to take this this paintbrush right here. I want to change this to white. You can even take the eyedropper, just make sure I have the same shade of white. I want this at 100, yeah. And let's just go over this here. So it must be this. I'm just going to get rid of all these dark lines. I want the cracks. I don't want all this weird stuff. You can zoom in if it makes it easier for you. Turn the brush size down a little. And you can be a little bit more careful than I'm being here. It might give you some weird effects, but for me, this is just going to fix it. Yeah, I don't want that. These are a little weird. So you can actually bake an ambient occlusion map in Blender as well. Both work just fine, as long as you understand what it's doing. Zoom back out. File, export as. I'm going to save it right to the same destination, which is our game folder. So it's actually going to fix it in the game right away. Export. Cool. Go to Unity. Okay, and now it's a little bit better. So we're getting those artifacts there from our normal map. Again, it's all a matter of how invested you are. So however much time you spend. Right, I did all this stuff really quickly, so none of it's going to be perfect. But we are going to use post-processing effects to make this look probably 10 times better. Maybe 20. Anyway. Let's smooth this up on this a little bit. Sure. So let's finish up our materials. I'm just going to duplicate this one. I'll change the M to be chicken body. Okay, come down to our textures. There. There. And there. And I probably want this rough. Let's do that. Let's increase the normal map a little bit. Let's go 1.2. Whoops. 1.2. Sure. Okay, and one more for the accessories. I'm just going to say chicken ACC. One there. That one there. That one there. Okay, so on the egg itself and on the chicken maybe, I want to actually use the colors that we've painted to add some extra detail. Maybe a 2K texture would have been better on the chicken, but I'm okay with this. Okay, so let's take this albedo. Let's hit Control D and duplicate it. I'll just name this normal 2. Okay, and come down normal map, create from grayscale, and go 0.1. That should work out pretty good. So you can see what happened here. So it presses in the dark colors and pulls out the light colors. Now you can use negative on your material to change that if you like. Go to our chicken here, chicken normal 2. Right here on secondary maps, you can drop the normal map down right here. You can see what happens, right? So I think that's pretty cool. I'll go with that. You can also do -1 or negative whatever, just to get a different effect. Right, and do the opposite. Now let's do one for our egg too. I'm just going to duplicate this. Name this normal 2. Normal map. Create from grayscale, 0.1. Whoops. Probably should have changed the chicken to smooth, so let's do that. This one right here. Let's change this to smooth. Okay. Chicken egg. Egg normal 2. Right here on the secondary map. Cool. So I did a little white line around the edge, and that gives me that little protrusion there. I think that's cool. Okay, so he's pretty much set up with his materials. Let's drag this the accessories onto him. Okay, we can turn the smoothness up on this a little bit. Or a lot even. Just the post-processing effects we do later will make this look much, much better. So just hang on for that if you're worried about the graphics looking pretty crappy. Okay. So there he is. Now we need to set up our animations and our animators. So let's go to Animator Controllers. So right-click right here, Create. Animator Controller. I'm just going to call this Player Animator. Could say Player Controller, but I have a script name that as well, so I'm just going to make sure that has a different name. Okay, so we can click our guy here. We can say Add Component, Animator. Okay, and we can drag in our Player Animator, which is currently empty. So first of all, we need to go to our chicken model. Whoops. Characters. Let's go to our chicken model. So we can see all our animations right here. We need to set these up in case they're looping. Okay, so you can click here and you can play your little animations and see these. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we want fall to be looping. Let's check loop time, idle, loop time, run and walk, loop time. That's really all we need to do right now. Cool. So with that opened up, let's go to the animator. So if you select a game object with an animator and click the animator tab, it will give you the specific animator attached to that game object. So let's come over here to parameters and let's add one right now called a float. So this would be just a parameter basically between 0 and 1 to tell us if we're moving or not. So this will be attached to our X and Y axes of our controls, which is forward, back, left, and right. Right, you can use WASD by default or the arrow keys. So let's change this to speed %, and this is just going to work with our code. We'll get into some coding basics before we actually get this guy controlling, so that you can understand the script I'm going to give you, a little bit at least. Okay, so let's first drag in our idle. So we want him to initially be doing that, right, like that. Okay, so we need our movement. So if you just want walk, just drag the walk in, right-click this animation right here, and you can make a transition, right? You'll get this arrow coming off of it, and just connect that to the next animation. Now click the arrow, and that'll give you the transition parameters. So you can see basically how he'll switch from one to the other, right? Maybe I want this to be a little bit faster, so this is the length of your transition, so how much it's going to blend into the next. That can look a little weird if it's really big sometimes. We don't want exit time, But before we uncheck that, let's add the condition speed percent. So let's add this little plus sign right here, and it's going to give you the top one on your list. Speed percent. We'll say if it's greater than 0.05. Okay, so with a controller, if you end up using a controller, 0 is a little too low, right? And so you just want to crank that up just a touch past 0. Okay, and we'll actually transition him back from the walk same way, except this time we'll go less than 0.05. Right? We want to uncheck exit time on these. So what exit time is going to do is it's going to play the entire animation before it does the transition. We don't want to do that. We want to do the transition as soon as we press the forward, back, left, or right button. We want to start moving. Right? And same thing as soon as we let go, as soon as the player kind of stops, we want him to go right back into his idle. So let's take this down a notch as well. I think that's good. It's quick enough. Okay. So there you go. So that's pretty much how you you set up your animator for idle and moving. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, because what I want to do is I want to have my walk and my run blend together. So you can right click here and say create state from new blend tree. Blend tree will just blend multiple animations together in a lot of different ways. We're just going to use the 1D. Okay, so right here you have your motions. So right now it's empty. We need to click this plus button, add motion field. Okay, I'm looking for a motion right now, so we just want our walk. Right, and anytime you can click this little circle here, and it'll give you all the animations in your game. So as I was mentioning, you wanted to name these, so I could type in chicken, I could type in walk, whoops, chicken walk, right, and it'll give me those right there. So I have 2 characters in here right now. One was a test, so I need to be sure that I'm taking the right one. So I'm going to drag this from here. Okay, we're going to add a new one, and this one's going to be the run. Okay, so drag in the run. We can see how that blends by dragging this little dot here. And you can see how that goes. Very cool. Okay, so that's basically set up. You can change the playback speed of these particular animations within the blend tree right here. If you don't want the thresholds to be 0 and 1, this is basically walk will be when it's down here, right? And it'll blend up to 1 depending on where we are in between. So if you want to automate those yourself, or sorry, if you want to change these yourself, just uncheck automate thresholds there, and it'll allow you to change that to whatever you want. But 0 to 1 is good for me. I just have walk and run. That's perfect. Let's go back to our layers. Click base layer. You can actually click it up here. It goes inside the blend tree there. So I can rename this blend tree right here. I'm going to rename this locomotion. Right. So this is us moving, and I'm going to create the exact same transitions here. Speed percent greater than 0.05. Uncheck exit time and turn this down a little bit, just so it's a little bit quicker of a transition. Okay. Uncheck exit time. It's going to give you a warning if you have no exit time and no condition. Basically means like it doesn't know what to do for the transition. That makes sense. Let's go 0.05. Okay, that's good. All right, so we're set up for movement. We'll get into some coding basics in a second.